I'm here at the Brooklyn Park Police Department with Sergeant Jake Tuzinski, who is one of our area's experts on scams and cyber crimes. And he's working on a few cases where scammers are posing as law enforcement officers. And during one of those investigations, he came across the script that these scammers are using to try to trick people into sending money. And he has graciously agreed to show us one of these scripts so we can learn something from it. Tell us a little bit about this script here.
What we can see, it's 4 pages long. They're introducing themselves as some kind of ranking police official, in this case a lieutenant. This is pretty common. They'll also typically put in X name of their county sheriff's office, or I've seen local police departments as well.
Investigators say this is one of the most common scams they're seeing right now, where scammers impersonate a real-life officer or deputy in a person's community. And Tuzinski says sometimes the scammers even look through court records so they can target specific victims who actually have court dates on the calendar.
They continue to prime the victim to believe that they are law enforcement by now introducing a judge's name. Now they're saying there's a judge, here's a date, some kind of court action you were supposed to be at. Now they have this person's name already, and you can see they already have their fill-in-the-blank form, working on that trust and that assumption that this is law enforcement.
The scammers then explain how the victim missed a court date, or they didn't file the right paperwork, and they have to pay a fine or they'll be arrested.
And then they start talking about a gag order. And for me, this is a big red flag. Because now the victim is being told that they can't discuss this with anybody. And a lot of times that means they won't discuss it with their spouse, their loved ones, the people that they trust. Again, preying upon, now they have to hold this internally because it's a potentially violation of another court order if they disclose any of this information. So now they are siloed and they have to trust this one and only person who's on the other end of the phone.
And up until this point, the information they're providing is accurate. It's usually a real sergeant or lieutenant,
Yep.
And it's usually a real judge's name in their county.
Right, and that's kind of the thing, like we're all publicly identifiable officials. You could Google me and you could find I'm this person, I work for this police department. So they're using real law enforcement officers' names.
And you can see it in the script there. It's instructing them, no credit cards, debit cards, cashier checks. Like they're warning these people, these are not forms of payment you should take in this scam.
And they want these things too that they know aren't going to be clawed back and that other people aren't going to start investing. If they start doing credit cards or things that people can be identified, or banks will start to go after, now it's not just the public, government going after them. It's potentially the private sector also too will have, firms of investigators and really try and track it down. This is kind of a key thing too. So this last sentence here, you may have to go to 2 locations, possibly 3. This is really prevalent in these Bitcoin ATM scams, where in Minnesota we have new laws as of August 1st of last year, where a new customer can only make $2,000 worth of transactions per day within a 72-hour period. So they will actually have them go to 3 different Bitcoin ATMs where they're doing $2,000 at a time. And they're telling them like, hey, this could take a little while. Again, just that priming, but we've already built this whole rapport where you can trust me, they trust you, and now they're going to all these locations that when they hang up the phone, they realize they're like, why did I do that? But again, you're siloed, you're only talking to this person, you're totally entranced in this conversation, you're worried about getting booked and fingerprinted and mugshotted. So it's a lot for somebody to have to focus on and go through, and then think about these other things.
Tuzinski says scammers will often request payment through gift cards or cryptocurrency, which he says doesn't make sense and should be another red flag. But he says they are convincing, like one example where they argue that the dot in Green Dot gift cards stands for the Department of Treasury.
Not true. But again, it's just another little nail in the ruse of this coffin. Money PAC, they're saying PAC stands for Pay at Kiosk. Well, they just mentioned above there that you need to go to the federal kiosk. So again, they're just trying to make things quickly make sense in your mind.
The script even tells scammers what to do if a bank teller, friend, or family member tries to intervene.
This script is a lot more sophisticated and detailed than I expected, where it's really coaching these scammers to understand our criminal justice system and to really understand how to play on people's emotions.
This tells me that this has been a long-standing practice of trial and error, what has worked, what doesn't work. We know it works because I see here in my own city the number lost of just
Well, thank you so much for showing us these scripts. I'm sure this will be helpful for a lot of our viewers because some of them may come across one of these phone calls someday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the more we can get this out, the more force multiplied we can get to try to prevent these scams. And I would just encourage anybody, if this sounds familiar and if you haven't reported to your local law enforcement, please make sure that you do go file a police report with your local law enforcement agency.